Good morning and welcome to Behind the Screen. I am JM and this is a show where we hang out, we talk about games. Today we're talking about role-playing games. It's good to see Grom every morning and John Doom. Good to see both of you. Gotta have some of my hot coffee. Um, I am excited about what we're going to talk about today, which is the Castles and Crusades Reforged edition. Good morning, Mark. Great session of Jackals last night. Really enjoyed getting back into that. So, what is Castles and Crusades Reforged edition? Well, I mean, it is Castles and Crusades. Things have not um, changed that much. And like, you may be wondering, why do a new edition? And one of the neat things about Castles and Crusades is every couple of years they do a new edition of the game, which is basically just an incremental advance compared to the last edition. The rules for Castles and Crusades have not changed, and I don't believe they're ever going to change. But each edition that comes out is slightly better layout, slightly better art, incorporating errata, doing another editing pass, and so each edition makes the game a better version of the game, but the rules don't change, if that makes sense. But Reforged Edition is a little different. Mechanically, it's still Castles and Crusades, but I'm sure on some corners of the internet, the outrage is still real, but it's very hard to maintain outrage on one thing for any length of time, which is why I think we are always looking online for the next thing to be outraged at. But some of you may remember what John Doom refers to as the late unpleasantness, which is when the Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro attempted to revoke the Open Gaming License. The Open Gaming License was put in place in 3rd edition and has allowed people to make official Dungeons and Dragons supplements by just putting the OGL at the back and then able to make money. It's where Paizo came from. It's where, Paizo was around, but it's what made Paizo and Pathfinder the giant that it is today. It's why Kobold Press was able to launch themselves. Schwalb Entertainment with Shadow of the Demon Lord. Trollord Games with Castles and Crusades. Alexander McCrease with Adventurer Conqueror King. And they tried to revoke it. This provoked a massive backlash. And then they said, well, we both won. We won't do it. And that provoked an even bigger backlash. And what kind of the takeaway from, I would say, the majority of publishers that I know was, if they've done it once, they'll probably try to do it again. So what can we do to protect ourselves? Some people joined the Orc license, which was a perpetual license that was put in place, and when a game is put in there, its content is available to produce stuff under the Orc license. Hello to Tink. Also, great Jackals game last night. Some people made their own version of 5th edition to be their core game going forward, like Tales of the Valiant, and a couple of others. What Autark and Trollord Games did was they said, hey, well, this is a time to do a new edition of the game and go through and remove the open gaming content. And that's basically what Castles and Crusades did. Now, the changes are frankly minor, text-wise. Instead of Magic Missile, we have Magi's Missile and Magi's Armor and things like that. But what Trollord Games did was said, hey, this is the time to kind of do one of their biggest updates to layout and formatting and presentation of the game. Hey, John Doom and James, good to see you. And yeah, you're correct. Some people used Creative Commons and the like and opened their stuff up completely. I would really, really like to, maybe in 2025, see if I can't put together a gaming license for the Clash system, because I think that would be awesome. But let's take a look at two examples of what they changed. And if you've never got into Castle and Crusades, now is a great time to get into it, because it's completely detached from the open gaming license. The game that we see here is the game that, in theory, will exist in perpetuity, minus all of the things that the gaming license could have brought, could have destroyed. I'm hoping to have Steve on here to talk about it, because to my recollection, Trollord Games was the first, if not one of the first, gaming companies who took the OGL and made something new. They weren't content with just putting out products for 3rd edition. They wanted to make something of their own. So this is the original layout for the Assassin. And this is from the last printing of Castles and Crusades. You've got the cool Assassin art pieces. You've got, right, the abilities. Actually, I think it technically starts... Did I do this backwards? I did do this backwards. This is the original layout and look of Castles and Crusades. Here's the Assassin. You can see how the tables look, how the page is laid out, the headers and everything. And they did update it. Tables are a little bit better formatted. They stand out a lot nicer. The art gets a little bit bigger, a little bit more brighter, a little more colorful. You can tell, if you're looking at the two, the difference is the Reforged edition has this Crusader seal up at the top. If you are looking for a game that is Dungeons and Dragons adjacent, and yet has some old school feel, has some new school mechanics, but still manages to stay in line with the older style of game, I would highly recommend jumping into Castles and Crusades. So here, yes, more brighter, John Doom. You just lost a Benny. I don't know. Trish is inside. She lets me do this all by myself. Yes, Mark, that's the key thing. The gameplay didn't change. If you have your old Castles and Crusades, if you have your old aired codex, if you have your old modules, mechanically, it's an identical game. They changed the wording of some things to remove OGL'd terms. They added some brightering. Thank you, you guys. You guys. I know what to do. I'll get both of you back on Friday. The real key for me is the difference between the layout of Monsters and Treasures. So this is what the Monsters and Treasures looked like. You had your Bronze Dragon stats here by age category. You had these small pictures throughout. In the Reforged edition, this is what they've done. We get a gorgeous full color page. The monster stat blocks have been completely reformatted to be easier to use. We get a lot more art. The books are actually larger, even though they have taken and changed contents, because they added more art. They added some rules and errata to this edition of the game. And while there's no mechanical difference, this version of the book of Monsters and Treasure, the Reforged edition, is a much prettier book. It's more beautiful. See, I didn't say more beautiful, or John Doom, son of a crumble complaint. It's a more beautiful version of the book. Again, content-wise, if you got them, there's really no reason to jump out and get the new ones, aside from the fact that you were supporting the great folks at Trollord Games. I got to hang out with them at Gamehole Con, and I can tell you they are wonderful people. They are people who are concerned with bringing as much fun and joy to people's tables with as little disruption or drama. And that's a company that I love to support. I love to support game companies that are focused on the enjoyment of the game and at the table. If you find yourself at a convention and Troll Lord Games is there, go by. They want to talk to you. They want to hear about your games and about how you're using Castles and Crusades. The other thing is, if you want a D&D game, you are a fan like me of the older style version of the games, or you are looking for a game that is, again, D&D adjacent, but you wanted to decouple yourself from Hasbro and WotC and the OGL late unpleasantness, you would be hard-pressed to find a better company to support and a better game to support than Castles and Crusades. It has all of the familiar things that you like about modern Dungeons & Dragons. All the classes are there. Spells. You've got a plethora of races to play. It is a D20 unified with ascending armor class. The Siege engine works slightly different than the D20 engine, but is still intuitive and basically amounts to roll a D20, add your ability modifier and possibly your level, which acts as a proficiency bonus, versus a target number. The higher you roll, the better. It feels like you're just playing another version of Dungeons and Dragons. It's a very easy system to port people over from more modern games, but it does have the old school design aesthetic. So you don't deal with hit point bloat. You don't deal with crazy powerful bonuses to hit or ACs. You do run into a lot more of the old school style effects and traps and gameplay. It is, in my opinion, the perfect hybrid game between 2nd and 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. It feels like AD&D, but it plays like 3.0 or 5th edition. So yeah, if you have them, I don't know that you need to go out and immediately buy Reforged, but the next time one of your books disappears, or you need to give it away to one of your players so that they'll read the book, or just because you like supporting people who put out good games, head over to Troll Lord Games, grab yourself a brand new set of core books for Castles and Crusades. All right, let's jump over to the chat. I was on my roll there. Okay, all right, let's see here. Making fun of JM, making fun of JM, making fun of JM. Mark backed it on Kickstarter. Tink says, yeah, they were also just like, all right, we need to do a version that has no more OGL content at the back, because I think we all took a look at the late unpleasantness and said, well, if they've tried it once, they were going to try it again. I mean, credit where credit is due. They did put the previous version of the rules, of 5th edition rules, into Creative Commons as well. So you can't revoke that. So it still exists out there. But we've seen some writing on the wall. And so the other thing is, Castles and Crusades Reforged edition is not as drastic of a reworking of Castles and Crusades to remove the OGL as, say, Acts 2 is compared to Acts 1. Yes, Mark, they are very vet friendly. If you served in the military, you get a great discount. You just have to email them and explain what's going on, your status, and they basically set up your store account to get something. I think it's 50% off. I could be wrong. I'll let Mark verify that. The other great thing is, if you want to start a club, especially at your school, your library, something like that, Castles and Crusades will send, Troller Games will send you a Castles and Crusade Club Starter Kit. It's 3 copies of the core rulebook, a GM screen, a Castle Keeper's Guide, a copy of Monsters and Treasure, and an adventure, as well as the PDFs and character sheets. You just have to say, hey, I'm starting this club at this school or at this location, and fill out the paperwork. And they're like, yeah, we would love to support you. I think this is the game that I'm going to run for my kids' gaming group at the school this semester. Either Castles and Crusades or Palladium Fantasy. I haven't quite figured it out. But I ran a club of Castles and Crusades, and they were nice enough to support my son's school last year for that. So, great people, great company, all around, wonderful game system. And again, you get a more better version of the books if you go out and get Reforged. I put the links to the PDF in the show notes. But again, I'm going to try and get, I'd like to get Steve on here to talk about, you know, what they did, why they did it. Because again, Trollord Games was one of the original OGL producing companies. And again, they took it in their own direction. So it was interesting to me to see this. And again, just for full disclosure, thanks to Trollord Games for sending me copies of the Reforged editions to do this review. Because I already had the books, and in talking with them, they were like, no, we'll get you a review copy if you'll do a review of it. So I was not paid for this review in anything but the books that were given to me. And overall, I knew I was going to like it because I'm a huge fan of Castles and Crusades. I gotta say, the new layout is sharp. The changes are minor. But for me, out of the 3, that new version of Monsters and Treasure is really just spectacularly good. It is gorgeous. I enjoy those conversations as well, John. I'm hoping to have one here before the end of January. We'll see if the timing works out. But we'll be back next week on Tuesday. We're going to talk about something called one-to-one time. It's been making its rounds on the RPG commentator sphere. I'm trying it in my Hyperborea game. I want to do a little recap of what we're doing, how we're doing it, and how it's affected things. So I will let you guys know how it's going on Tuesday. I will say, John, yes, Tink, I love when game companies support school stuff. And I happen to know that Pinnacle does support school clubs as well because they supported my school club. If you want to know more, send an email to info@savageuniverse.com and I will get your information over to Landauer to get a school package put together. We'll see if it comes to be. So, that's it for today. I will see you all next week. We do have an Exploring Glorantha. It's probably going to be the last weekend of the month. But we have an Exploring Glorantha coming up. And yeah, looking forward to all of the chats and projects and hanging out that we're going to do in 2025. So, until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, stay gaming. I am JM. This has been Behind the Screen, and I will see you all later. Until next time, have a good one.